Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are diving into something super exciting, how to use an HTTP callout and the transform element in Flow to automatically create multiple records in Salesforce. No Apex classes, no complicated JSON parsing, just clicks, not code. I'll show you step by step how to make a callout to an external API, handle complex JSON responses, transform the data into Salesforce records, and create multiple records with just a flow. So if you've ever thought there's no way I can do this without Apex, stick around because I'm about to show you how easy it actually is. Let's jump in. The first thing we're going to do is to create the Joe custom object and the fields. So we have the external ID field to match the external records to our Salesforce records, the punchline field, the setup, and the type field. All right. Before we can make an HTTP callout from Flow, we need to set up something super important, named credentials and external credentials. Think of named credentials like a secure doorway. It tells Salesforce where to go and how to authenticate when reaching out to an external service. Here's the quick setup. First, go to Setup and search for external credentials. Click on New, give it a name and define the authenticated protocol. For example, we have the API key, basic auth, OAuth 2.0, depending on your API. For this video, we'll be using custom authentication. To learn more about named credentials and external credentials, you can go to official Salesforce documentation, and I'm going to share the link in the description of this video. Now, the next thing is to create a new principal. So give your principal a name. We're going to call this joke principal and save. We can now create our named credentials. Click on new, give it a name, and set the URL endpoint. I'm just going to grab the URL endpoint and paste it in here. Select the external credential that we created and save. Next, we'll create a permission set. Go to permission sets, click on new, give it a name, save, and then scroll down to external credential principal access. We're gonna assign the principal, the external credential principal, to this permission set, and I'm just going to assign this to myself. Next, we're going to be using a screen flow for our case study. Click on new flow, start from scratch, select screen flow and create. The first element we'll be using here is the screen element. Drag the display text onto the screen and give it a name. We want to display text that says select the type of joke you would like to create. Click on done. Next, we'll be using the radio button. Click and drag the radio button onto the screen. Give it a name. Let's call this select joke type. Now we're going to create two choices here. Let's say single choice and multiple choice. So the user will be able to select whether to create a single joke or multiple jokes. Click on Done. We'll use a decision element next. So let's call this joke selection type. The first outcome here is single selection, and the condition is if the joke creation type is equal to single. Then we had the next outcome. Another outcome here is multiple selection. The condition here would be if the joke creation type is multiple. Let's save our flow. We're just going to call this HTTP callout to create jokes. Save. Next, for the single selection, we're going to add an action. We'll add the create HTTP callout action and give it a name. Let's call this HTTP callout for single joke. And we're going to select the joke name credential that we created at the beginning of this video. We'll give it a name. And the method here would be get method. We also need to add a URL path. I'm just going to grab the path from the API website. Now we're using a public API. This website here is a public website that you can access. Just go there and select random joke and paste it on the URL path. So we want to use example response. So I'm just going to grab the sample JSON payload from the website. Okay, let's name it sample JSON response single and paste the JSON response, review and save. Let's give this a name. Single joke response. We don't need to do anything. Leave everything as is and save. Next, we'll do the same for multiple response. Select the action element and create the HTTP callout action. Give it a name and select the joke credential that was created. We're also going to be setting the URL path here. So I'll grab the URL path from the API website. We're also going to be using an example response. So let's copy that from the sample payload and paste it here. Give it a descriptive name and save. Give the action a name. So let's call this multiple jokes response. Then save. Next, we'll be using the create element, the create record element to create a single joke if the response received is for a single joke. So how many records are we creating? We're creating just one record. We're setting the record field manually and creating one record. So we'll select the object joke and set the values for the field. So for type, we'll select output from the response and type. We'll do the same for the remaining fields. For external ID, we're going to use output for the response and match the ID with the external ID. The same for punchline. Output from single joke response, punchline. And then for type, for setup, we'll do the same thing. Output from single joke response, setup. Next, we had a screen element to display success message. Enter this message you want your user to see if the joke was successfully created, and then save. Click on done. Let's give the screen a name. Let's call that success message. Now for multiple jokes response, we're going to be using the transform element. Okay, so normally when you get multiple records back from an HTTP callout, you'd think, oh, I need a loop. Or worse, I guess I have to write Apex, but not anymore. Thanks to the new transform element in Salesforce Flow, you can skip both. Here is how it works. After your HTTP callout element, you'll add a transform element. Set the source as the body of your HTTP response. This is usually a JSON collection, like a list of objects. Set the target as a new record. For example, a collection of joke records if you're working with jokes. So in our case study today, we're working with jokes. We'll set the target as a new record collection. And inside the transform element, we'll map the fields from the API response. So our Salesforce fields, like mapping setup and punchline, to our custom object fields. When this is done, Salesforce will automatically create all the records in one go. So no loop is needed. To learn more about the transform element, you can go to the official Salesforce documentation, and I'm going to share the link to that documentation under the description of this video. Next, we'll be using the create record element. And this time we're creating multiple records. We'll select the jokes from transform multiple jokes response collection variable and then save. So by selecting that, Salesforce automatically creates the multiple records for us. Finally, we're going to display the success message to our user. So let's do that using a screen flow. We're also going to add a fault path to this flow. So click on fault path and use a screen flow to create the fault message that will be displayed to the user. It is usually best practice to always add a fault path to your flow, and there are several ways of doing this, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to be using a screen flow. Now let's save and debug our flow. Select single joke type, click on next, and then the joke is created. Before we select the multiple joke, let's go into our org to check if the joke was actually created. Yeah, so we have the joke created for us. Now let's check for multiple jokes. Select multiple joke type, click on next, and you get a success message. Let's go into the hug to check if these records were created. Yes, we have all the records created for us. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next video.